I'm Libby Gibson, Town Manager. Welcome to What's Going On in Town Government. We had a long selectmen's meeting this week. It was a workshop meeting, which means the board generally spends its workshop meetings talking about particular topics, having in-depth conversations among themselves. And every now and then they do invite public comment, which they did at this workshop at the end. And this workshop had to do with water quality. That was our topic. And we had several items to go over. We had our contractor who does water quality testing come in and review the 2015 water quality testing results. Basically, what his conclusions were that the water quality in Nantucket Harbor and Mattocket Harbor and some of the other ponds, Sackatchew, Myacomet, Hummock, it's not super great. He did say our harbor is one of the cleanest ones in southeastern Mass, but it's not at the level it needs to be at. So he went over why and stuff like that, and this is all online. His presentation will either is or will be online. We also went over an eelgrass survey that Natural Resources coordinated over the summer. We talked about some harbor water quality initiatives that town administration's been working on, fertilizer regulation amendments. What else was there? Some stormwater outreach pipe issues, not outreach, stormwater outfall pipe issues. I'm getting that mixed up with sewer public outreach, which is another thing we talked about for the upcoming sewer project that's on the town meeting warrant. And then we went into a pretty lengthy discussion about that project and how the funding can be dealt with, what the financing is meant to be, and then we had some public comment and questions. So overall, I think it was long, but it was a good,
I got a question
informative
about
meeting.
the study.
Which one?
The guys that do the study.
Which study?
The water quality study.
The testing?
Yeah.
Yes.
How long have they been doing it?
That group has been doing it for maybe 4 or 5 years, I want to say.
And are they a Massachusetts company?
Yes, they are actually from UMass Dartmouth, SMAST, School of Marine and Science Technology. That might not be totally right, but yes. And Dr. Howes, Brian Howes, the presenter, used to work at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute and is very knowledgeable about water quality issues.
And how often do we need to have this tested? I mean, to get the results the data that we're...
Well, frequently throughout the summer. I don't know exactly what the testing schedule is, but I think that Caitlin Shaw, our water quality biologist, mentioned it at the meeting. I don't remember exactly what she said. But also there are testing requirements that are part of our groundwater discharge permit for the Surfside Sewer Treatment Plant. So we are required to do certain types of testing in certain areas.
I see. Do we pay? Do we have to
pay
for this?
Yes, we do.
Is it expensive?
I'm going to make a guess. It's probably between $25,000 and $35,000 a year.
Okay.
It's not $1 million.
No,
but it's not $10.
I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
You know, people should be aware of what we're doing, and you know, we're getting data, and then it's costing this much to get that data, and we also have other people that work for the town that could get data.
Our staff provides the samples. We don't have the setup to do the testing.
The facility.
The variety of testing that's done.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's possible that there is a water quality testing lab at the treatment facility, Surfside, but it's only very basic right now, and it's for the testing of items out there for their purposes. If we were going to turn it into a facility that could do the types of testing that we need to do that we just reviewed at the BOS meeting, we would need a pretty significant upgrade. It could be done, but it would be.
It was interesting for those who didn't see how he kind of put Myacomet Pond, you know, on notice. How that was the worst one on the whole island.
Yeah.
So
it's bad, and there are a lot of septic systems in that area. And phosphorus, I think he said, too.
Yeah.
We do have a study that we are working on that is the result of a state grant that the Nantucket Pond Coalition was instrumental in obtaining for us. They really obtained it for us. It was more than instrumental. And that is testing for phosphorus in Hummock Pond, and I think we were going to go for Maya Comet at a later time. Anyway, so this was a big meeting. We are working on some frequently asked questions about the sewer project. So in a nutshell, we have about a $41 million sewer project that's on the 2016 annual town meeting warrant. That town meeting is going to be held on Saturday, April 2nd. Right at the moment, let me back up. The project will be financed. The project has two phases. One phase is to sewer an area called Nantucket Harbor Shimo, which used to be called Monomoy, but it's really not Monomoy. It's a geographic area that's more Shimo, and this is all on maps that are on the town website. The other area is called the Plus area, and that has nothing to do with the Plus department, but it's sort of an abbreviation for additional parcels that are in the Mid-Island area, sprinkled about. It's not, there's here, it's all over. Areas that were never sewered for one reason or another, but need to be sewered. We have an approved loan from the state of 0% interest that will need to be paid back. Right now, the Board of Selectmen has been talking about paying it back through betterment assessments on those properties that would be bettered by the sewer, that would get sewer to their properties, of 60% of the cost of the project. 40% would be funded by the taxpayers. The taxpayer portion is the subject of a ballot question at the annual town election, which is about 2 weeks after the annual town meeting. The board and the finance committee are going to be having a meeting on, this isn't written in stone yet, but we talked about it yesterday, on probably Monday, February 29th at 4 o'clock at the Public Safety Building to discuss a united approach to the funding scenario, the funding recommendation. At the board meeting, the board talked a little bit about, well, what would 75-25 look like? Meaning 75% paid by the taxpayers, 25% by the betterments. What would 100% on the tax rate look like? What would 50-50 look like? So there are still some discussions about exactly what that split would be. We are also going to be working on a letter to property owners who are affected by the sewer. You will get a letter directly that explains what's happening, and we're working on some FAQs, frequently asked question sheet, that will be posted online. There's still some additional technical information I need to get, and I'm hoping to get that online, and it'll be updated as we go.
Is it possible that on the ballot question can have those options so that people can choose? No.
No.
It's only going to be 60-40 or 75-25?
The town meeting vote will establish the split. The ballot question will not. That's what I meant. The town meeting vote
I see. Okay.
Establishes the split.
Oh, I got you. Okay. That's what I meant.
The ballot question simply will, there's no amount in there because statutorily you don't put an amount in.
So town meeting is going to be, if you're concerned, you make sure you show up.
Right. Absolutely. A couple more things happening on the sewer project. On Saturday, March 5th, the Civic League is offered to sponsor a forum about the project. That will be at 10 to 12 at the Public Safety Building. It will also be televised. The board will have another workshop meeting about this project on Wednesday, March 9th. And I mentioned the joint Selectmen FinCom meeting on February 29th. A newsletter just went out. Did you get yours?
I haven't checked.
Okay, it's in your mailbox
Okay.
probably. About the project, and it's more of a general newsletter. It's not, I don't think it says in there that exactly like what the betterments are, but that is coming in the individual property owner letters. Is the battery?
Nope, okay. Everything's still going.
So that's how we spent our time on Wednesday night. Next week is Public Hearing Wednesday. We have some telephone petitions. We have some fee hearings for ambulance rates, mobile food units, courtesy vans. Our housing consultant is going to give a report about the status of getting housing going at the 2 Fairgrounds Road town-owned site. And that's what's coming up.
That's all, huh?
That's all. That's all, Gina.
All right. Well,
that's the tip of the iceberg. I know I always say that, but it's true. There's much more going on. I probably ought to mention, we've had some meetings this week with a consultant that has been engaged to do an operational review of the island home. And what is happening is we've had some discussion about rebuilding a new facility, and the board hasn't voted specifically yet on where the new facility would be. There are discussions underway about keeping it where it is, about rebuilding it at Sherburne Commons. There were some other sites that were reviewed, but I don't think we would proceed with, for example, at 2 Fairgrounds Road. The consultant that we've engaged right now is looking at alternate operational models, basically. How can we operate the facility in a more cost-effective manner? And that one of the models might be, if you moved it to Sherburne Commons, there would be operational efficiencies that result from like operations that are going on, like the kitchen maybe, the cleaning, things of that nature that could be cost savings for both entities. That we wouldn't have that if you kept it where it is. Keeping it where it is going to be more expensive, and there are complications with building a new facility there while keeping a facility open. We don't believe there's enough room on that site to do that, so residents would have to be moved. That requires Department of Public Health approval. So this isn't to say it cannot be done. It's not impossible, but it's very costly. So there's a trade-off.
So we've got sewers and this?
We've got sewers and this, and a pretty expensive school. We've got a fire station that's about to get underway. So we have to take into consideration all of that. We can't just look at one thing and say, it's expensive, yes, but let's do it, without looking at everything. So I think there's some concern about the town not having looked hard enough at the current site for our island home. We are looking hard at it. The consultants even met with family and friends of our island home this week to gather what their concerns were. I think there's some misinformation out there about what the consultants are doing and what has or hasn't been already decided. Nothing's been definitively decided at this point, and it's likely, not definitive, but likely that we will have a fall special town meeting, potentially for another sewer project and potentially for our island home. And before then,
so that's what we can look forward to, are the
Yep.
sewer project that we've got to get going in the
right now, yep,
Monomoy area,
the Shimo and Plus,
area.
Yep.
Then what would be the next one? Is that Matticat?
The next one, I think, would probably be, again, one project with 2 phases, Matticat and Warren's Landing and the Somerset Needs area.
And are those a lot more expensive than the one in?
You know what, Gino, I should have brought that with me. I don't think I did. It is more expensive.
It is, okay.
Yep. These aren't cheap projects. At the workshop meeting, we talked about what else can we do to delay the sewer projects. And the problem is a few things. First off, we have to take action on getting our nitrogen levels to something called managed loads, total managed daily load, TMDL. That's a state mandated requirement, and every town on the Cape is subject to the TMDL requirement as well. And if in your community, if you don't start taking action, the state's going to take action for you, but they're not going to pay for it. We're going to pay for it, and it's going to be more expensive. So the 0% loan will only last for so long, and the other there's a number of components to our overall approach. It's sewering, it's enforcing fertilizer regulations, it's using big boats in the harbor, ranging from little things like big boats in the harbor isn't necessarily a little thing, but moorings and scouring of the bottom and the eelgrass survey. A lot of these things all are somewhat within our control. Sewers is entirely within our control, but it's not the only solution.
Well,
it's part of a bigger solution. It does happen to be the most expensive.
They're going to say, okay, well, if we have to spend, why don't we start with fertilizer first and then test before we spend all this? Because they're going to say this.
Oh yes,
they're
yes they
say,
are.
Okay,
and
for that kind of money, why don't we stop fertilizer? test to see what other things we can do before we spend all this.
Those are
not that we shouldn't sue her.
Yeah, those are really valid concerns and comments. The fertilizer regulations, it's much more complicated than it sounds. And I think the reality, the practical reality is we can't say, even if we had regulations that say we're banning all fertilizer use, it's not going to stop tomorrow. It takes education, it takes compliance, it takes enforcement, and all of that stuff requires other resources. And there are legal challenges that are likely to ensue as well. So it's got to be a combined approach. And so again, if we don't do this project now, we're either going to be forced to do it by the state at some point sooner than we would like. We're going to lose our 0% loan, which, by the way, is a savings in this upcoming project at town meeting of something like $40 million over the life of the loan. $40 million. We don't want to have to pay that if we don't have to. And I forgot what else I was saying.
Well, don't worry about it.
Why we have to do it now, right?
Yeah.
The state, the loan, and the water quality is just going to keep getting worse, and that'll have an eventual impact, if not a sooner impact, on the island's economy, because no one's going to want to come here if the harbor is polluted and nasty and nobody wants to use it. Which, as Brian House said at our meeting the other night, we have a high-functioning harbor. The water quality compared to other harbors in southeastern Mass is very good, but it isn't at the level it needs to be, is the point. And it will get worse if we don't do something pretty quickly about it. So it's a challenge, but it is something that affects all of us, and we are all going to have to be part of the paying for it. So what else? There's a lot going on leading up to town meeting. FinCom is meeting next week, Tuesday and Thursday. Then they have a week off for school vacation week, and then we're back at it. First couple weeks of March between the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen finalizing motions for the warrant articles, and then we are at town meeting on April 2nd. I feel like it's next week practically.
Well,
almost
it's going to
is.
be here before you know it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Meanwhile, keep warm.
Yep.
We just got a situational awareness statement from the Mass Emergency Management Agency. It's potentially life-threatening wind, chill conditions.
Wow. It is winter, and we've been
lucky up to
this point.
We have been lucky up to this point. It's just going to be miserable going outside this weekend.
It's just for the weekend, though. And then it's going to warm up.
It is?
Yeah, I think so.
I hope so. I really hope so. I already feel frozen right now. All right, thank you very much. See you next time.